Last fall, I set out to explore a remote stretch of the Appalachian Trail, one of the less traveled segments in northern Georgia. I had just left a stressful job and needed time to clear my head. I've always preferred solo hiking, and this seemed like the perfect opportunity to disconnect. My plan was straightforward, a 10-day hike from one trailhead to the next, with everything I needed strapped to my back. The first few days were uneventful. The trail was breathtaking, thick forest canopies, scattered autumn leaves underfoot, and a crispness in the air that made hiking comfortable. I didn't run into anyone after the first day, and I welcomed the solitude. Every evening, I would veer off the trail a few hundred feet to pitch my tent in a concealed spot, just to be safe. It was on the fifth night that things started to go wrong. I had set up camp near a dry creek bed and was boiling some water for dinner when I heard the sound. Footsteps, not the rustling of animals or the distant cracking of branches, but deliberate, human-like footsteps crunching through leaves. They stopped just outside the perimeter of my camp. I froze. "Hello?" I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. No response, just silence. I stood there for a full minute, listening. Then, just as I was about to convince myself it was nothing, I heard a single footstep, closer than before. I grabbed my headlamp and shined it toward the noise, but all I saw were trees and shadows. I didn't sleep well that night. In the morning, nothing seemed disturbed. I told myself I must have imagined it, packed up, and kept moving. But from that point forward, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Things began disappearing. First, it was a single glove, then a half-full water bottle. On the seventh day, I realized my spare socks and a Ziploc bag of trail mix were gone. I checked my pack over and over, certain I hadn't misplaced them. The paranoia started to wear me down. I'd stop every few minutes while hiking, thinking I heard someone behind me, only to see nothing when I turned around. One evening, I discovered what looked like a footprint near where I'd set up my tent. It was bare, no boot tread, just a human footprint in the mud. That night, I tied my tent flap shut with cord and kept my knife within arm's reach. I didn't sleep. I didn't even lie down. I sat with my back against a tree, flashlight off, listening. Around 2 a.m, I heard breathing. Not mine, not an animal, human. Slow, ragged, and just outside the tent. I sat there, not moving a muscle. It went on for what felt like forever. Then, a whisper. "I see you." I unzipped the tent, knife in hand, and shined my flashlight toward the sound. Nothing. Just trees swaying in the wind. I waited until dawn and bolted. I didn't even eat breakfast. I just packed up and started hiking at a dead pace. My legs burned, my chest ached, but I didn't stop. Every bend in the trail felt like it was hiding someone. Every rustle made my heart jump. That night, I didn't set up camp. I kept moving even after the sun went down. Hiking in the dark was a nightmare. My flashlight flickered constantly, and every time it dimmed, I swore I saw a shape in the distance, just out of reach. Then, on the 9th night, I saw him. I was maybe 2 hours from the end of the trail. I was stumbling from exhaustion when I caught sight of something just off the path, half hidden behind a tree. A man, or what used to be one. He was thin, unnaturally so. His face was smeared with dirt, and his eyes glowed in the light like an animal's. He wore a shredded raincoat and nothing else. No shoes, no pack. Just standing there, watching. I raised my knife, but he didn't move, didn't flinch, just smiled. I turned and ran. I don't remember how I made it to the end of the trail. I don't remember unlocking my car. But I remember the feeling of being watched, like he'd followed me the whole way, just to make sure I left. I told a ranger the next day. He said people sometimes go off the grid out there. Trail ghosts, they call them. People who never come back, who become part of the woods. I don't know who or what I saw that night, but I'm never hiking alone again. I should probably start by saying, I don't know if any of this ever made it into a report. I only know what my cousin told me after he quit his job and disappeared into a bottle for 2 years. He was a surveyor for a private forestry company, one of those guys who hiked deep into the woods to map out tree lines, water sources, and elevation changes before a site was cleared for logging. It was mostly solo work, occasionally with a partner. Long days, satellite phones, paper maps, that kind of thing. This happened somewhere in northern British Columbia. He never told me exactly where, but he said it took 2 helicopter trips to drop off equipment, and the last radio tower they passed was 6 hours behind them by ATV. Remote isn't even the word. He was sent out with a younger guy named Nolan, new hire, friendly, quiet, a bit green. The company wanted them to spend 2 weeks mapping a basin slated for development the next spring. They were dropped off with gear, food, a satellite phone, and 2 tents. The plan was simple: hike, measure, log coordinates, check in every 2 days, get picked up on day 15. It started normally. The first 3 days were uneventful. Cold nights, long hikes, bear signs here and there. But on day 4, they stumbled across something weird. It was a fire pit, small, hastily built, but fresh, still warm. Someone had been there within hours. But the strange part was that it wasn't near a trail, water, or any logical place to stop. Just tucked away behind a cluster of mossy boulders in a clearing. There were bones in the pit, animal bones, maybe deer, charred black and cracked open, like someone had been boiling marrow. They radioed base, logged the coordinates, and moved on. The next night, they heard something. It started around 3 a.m. My cousin was sleeping when Nolan shook him awake. There were footsteps outside the tent, slow, deliberate, crunching leaves and sticks, circling, then stopping, then circling again. They stayed perfectly still, gripping their knives, listening. No sounds of retreat, no breathing, just the wind and the occasional soft step. At dawn, they unzipped the tent and stepped out. Nothing, no footprints, just their own. They chalked it up to animals or paranoia. But that day, they found another fire pit. This one was still smoking, and there was a carving in a nearby tree. 3 stick figures, 1 lying down, 2 standing over it. It could have been a joke, sure, but they were 12 miles from where anyone else was supposed to be. That night, Nolan wanted to sleep in shifts. My cousin agreed. He took first watch. Around midnight, the satellite phone rang. It had only rung once before, during the first scheduled check-in. Now it was buzzing in the dark like a wasp. He picked it up. No voice, just static. Then, after 10 seconds, a whisper, "Do you know where he went?" The line went dead. They didn't sleep. At sunrise, they packed up everything and decided to cut the trip short. They'd head to the pickup site early and try to call the chopper back in. As they moved, they noticed trees were marked, small white symbols painted near the base, circles with lines through them, always facing the direction they were going, not symbols the company used, not anything they'd seen before. Then Nolan vanished. My cousin turned around after not hearing him for a while. No footsteps, no snapping branches. He called out for nearly an hour. Nothing. He found Nolan's pack leaning against a tree stump, unopened. His notebook was inside. The last page had a drawing of the same 3 stick figures. This time, all of them were lying down. That's when he ran. He followed the river west, thinking he could make it to a ranger outpost or a road. After 2 days of moving without sleep, he finally got through on the sat phone. He said they sent a chopper. The pilot found him collapsed on a ridge, half-starved, covered in scrapes, and barely coherent. He never went back. He tried reporting what happened, but the company denied anything unusual. Nolan was listed as lost in the field. Search parties found nothing. No tent, no clothes, not even a boot print. My cousin still has nightmares. He told me once, while drunk, that he sees the figures in the trees sometimes. Not stick figures. People. Tall. Still. Watching. He said the worst part wasn't the phone call, or the drawings, or even Nolan disappearing. The worst part was something he saw on the last morning, just before the phone rang. He had stepped out to relieve himself and looked toward the tree line, and there, sitting cross-legged beside a tree, was a man with a face so still it looked painted on. He didn't blink, he just smiled.